You're watching NewsView with Lee Sullivan.
Welcome back. It's NewsView. I'm visiting with Jensen Hart. She is a Miss Tennessee International and a graduate of Vanderbilt and a med student, or will be a med student at Tennessee. And she's talking about some of her involvements and health. And I just have a lot of respect for people that can give of themselves. Most of us are so self-centered and selfish that, you know, we don't do much of that. And when we do any of it, we expect, you know, kudos and somebody to pat us on our back. But Miss Hart has a calling to that vocation, and as she says, as she goes through med school, she will determine if that is a valid calling or not. We hear a lot about beauty pageants, and a lot of course, no good news is not news, right? A lot of the issues that we hear about are a little seedy, but I mean, how is it? Talk to me about that. I'm an opportunity to ask someone who has participated in one. Is it its own world? I mean, you know, you said you'd been doing it since you were 17.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, is it? I mean, it's got to be a lot of pressure. I mean, who wants to lose, okay? And who, I mean, runner up, okay? You know, so, I mean, you've won some, you've lost some.
Sure.
How does that go?
Well, I liken it when you ask if, you know, if it's a whole new world, and it is. It's a world unto itself, but, you know, so is Formula One racing and people that are into that very seriously. There are things you have to know. There are ways to do things correctly, ways to do things incorrectly. So that's, I mean, that's an interesting part of it, but then you also have to deal with, and I'm in a unique position actually to talk about this, being somebody who's in the sciences and somebody who is going to medical school, because people are usually a little bit surprised when I tell them that this is, you know, something I'm involved in, have been involved in, and I'm a huge advocate for. But I also think it's interesting to have, you know, them sit down in an interview and see how they handle it, because I've gotten the opportunity to do this and to sit down and to talk to people in an interview setting over the years, and that experience has been invaluable to me. And, you know, among all the people I've met and, you know, passionate people, I think it's an incredible experience.
I mean, but talk to me, lady. I mean, how does it feel when an idiot asks you a question and you think, you moron? I know you've had to think, you idiot, what are you talking about? Huh? I mean, that's tough, isn't it?
It can be, yeah, absolutely. But it's, you know.
That's what your father says about being on my show.
No, and it can be, and it does get a lot of flack, for lack of a better word. And
Right.
I accept that, I understand that, and not all of it's completely unfounded. But, you know, grace under pressure is an invaluable skill. It's something I'll have for the rest of my life.
Really, really, and well said. That is well said. Grace under pressure. Is the thrill of victory as good as the agony of defeat is bad? I mean, when you go into them, like anything else, I know I can just tell by talking to you, you have an expectation that you will succeed. And so when that doesn't occur, you just build on that?
If you don't succeed, there's a reason. I'm a very firm believer in that. It's people tend to look at pageants from the outside and say that, you know, if you aren't this person, if you don't look this way, then you can't win. But you know enough to know when you've been in it a while that there's a lot more to it. And if I don't do well, there's a reason why I didn't do well.
Okay.
And that's where I have to go back and reevaluate. And like you said, I mean, like anything, you don't go in and win every time.
Right.
I think that if the agony of defeat met the thrill of victory, then I'd end up at 0. So I think the thrill of victory is a little.
That is very well said.
Tips the scales for the positive.
Okay, okay. Jensen Hart.
You're watching NewsView with Lee Sullivan.
I love America. Welcome back. This NewsView. I'm Lee Sullivan, and I am visiting with Jensen Hart. And she is Miss Tennessee International. Going into med school, we've talked a little bit about her involvement and her passions and her experiences. Your father, infamous libertarian, how would you qualify your political, where do you find yourself in the spectrum of politics? Conservative, liberal, libertarian?
I think I'd say, and my father may or may not agree with me on this, I'm comfortably right of center.
And I'm comfortable with that.
I don't know if I'd necessarily go all the way to libertarian, but that's largely because my interest doesn't lie in finances, and that's not
Right.
it's not my personal, not my bag, so to speak. But yeah, I think more so financially conservative than I am socially, but certainly I would consider myself
I'm
conservative.
just a little to the right of Attila the Hun. Genetic cleansing, all of that stuff. I mean, all of those things. You go. How do you find that? I mean, here you go. And let me back up just a little bit. Is there a specialty that you're interested in the medical field, GP, or I mean, do you have a focus yet?
I've worked a lot in different subsets of pediatrics, so pediatric orthopedics, pediatric oncology.
Right.
Kids make better patients than adults do. They complain less and they heal faster. So I'm thinking some branch of pediatrics. But at this point for me, it's all a little bit of hearsay.
Seeing where it goes. Okay.
Exactly. I've seen, but I haven't really experienced. So as soon as I can really get in there and see and do, I think I'll have a better sense of that.
When does that usually occur, do you think? I mean, I know some people are predisposed. I went to school with some weirdo people, you know, and in the 9th grade they were going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, and what the most disgusting thing was is that they became a lawyer, or a doctor, or a dentist. I didn't even know. It was hard for me to find the school.
Well, I'll have to apologize for people like us.
No focus. The kid had no focus, lady. I had to get to the end of the road, and the school was this way, and somehow the car would always veer to the right. It's hard to do well when you're not there. I know some people when they start they've already predetermined, but you're sort of open to that and see.
Well, the most common case is that people think they've predetermined when they start, and then really get in there, and it's nothing like they thought it'd be.
Right.
So, I've talked to enough people to realize that it's likely that I'll go in thinking one thing and come out knowing another.
Okay. I am driven to ask this question. As you look at the health care program instituted by the government, what's your opinion of what you see out there? You're as a patient or would-be patient, I'm certainly have a valid interest in it, but as a physician, so where do you see that?
I think it's an interesting situation. Like I said, I spent some time on Capitol Hill when it was really in the works, and I've seen what it could have been, I've seen what it should have been, and I've seen what it came out as. So I think it'll take a lot of tweaking over the next 8 to 10 years, which conveniently is how long it'll be before I'm a practicing physician.
Right.
I didn't really agree with how much, or how little rather, actual physicians were consulted, because it is in fact their profession that's being
taken over.
Exactly. So I would sit in on debates and on forums where they would walk in 3 physicians, ask them 2 questions, and send them back out. So I think that will be met with a lot of resistance and a lot of need to adapt what has actually come out. So I think it'll be interesting to see, but the bottom line remains is that you must have physicians, and you must have physicians that can take care of the patient load. I wasn't necessarily of the thought that everything was completely fine and didn't need to be changed,
right.
but
Right.
I also wouldn't consider myself a proponent of what came out.
Well, I think we all, through experience, had some inclination that it wasn't the best of all worlds, but at the end of the day, I think we took something that was marginally ineffective and ran it into a brick wall. Jensen Hart, we'll be right back.